Development Goals to provide water, safe and drinking water to all citizens by 2015. And then now you all of a sudden you put this. So the implication of this tax on water is that majority of our population are going to access dirty water. The diseases and the diseases related to poor water are going to increase, and of course increase their view on the health. So I see a disconnect, because you see, one of the greatest investments for or resource for any country is its population. Yes. So you want to invest in making your population healthy, and so that it can be productive, and then you tax it. So I think that was a minus when it comes to the taxation on water, because to me also it actually will have negative implications.
Right. And then there was the rich man's tax. Was it a bit moderate? In the US it's 10%. In the UK it's about 40%. At some stage they raise it to 50%.
I think this is also another irony. First of all, this country has been struggling to build the middle class, and I even don't know how many these people they will be targeted. But the implication for me, talking to my brother who was, linking my point to my brothers about innovation, if we have people who earn 120 million per year, it is a very small number. But I think it should be a deliberate effort by this country and by the government to increase the number of people to graduate.
Well, that isn't a bad way to begin.
I think it is a misdirected tax. It will.
What's the weak point there? What's the what?
The weak point is that it discourages people who are working very hard, and there are very few. And you see, so what you essentially have, you discourage people who are working to break that barrier in the middle class.
I'll stop at 9 million. I'll let you tell me, because I'll be taxed. Because it's 10 million a month.
So people actually would now want to remain below 10 million. So you cannot create a middle class, which is very important. I think in this reverse.
Imam, what's your overview?
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank my other colleagues for ably highlighting what is really key into this. Recently, you see, for some time I have ventured into agriculture, and I have found that many Ugandans have been discouraged to venture into agriculture because they look at agriculture as a poor man's job activity, and they still look at it as a subsistence thing. Whereas that's where we have a comparative advantage compared to any other country, by the way, in the world, if we were serious and critical. There is no country in the world that has a climate like that of Uganda, that has that forage coverage throughout the whole country, the whole of it.
South Sudan?
South Sudan cannot be like Uganda. Uganda is far away. We have better water than them. Yes. Water sources. We have so many swamps. We have all this. If they were properly utilized, yes, sir, would be there. So to me, much as people may celebrate the 150 billion added to agriculture, I think it is still peanut. Agriculture should be closer to education, if not more, because if you invest in agriculture,
what do they spend
and every person becomes rich enough, then it would ease even education, because people would be in a position to pay. I teach students, and I have found very many students who do not do the examinations because they lack 300,000. And what is the fees in this country? Tuition for higher institutions of learning, $500 per semester, and those are, they say, very expensive, but $500 is what? Nothing, completely nothing. So not to me, to people who are really looking forward for a future of this country. Therefore, while we say we should appreciate that the increment in the teachers' salaries, which in reality will make almost no critical sense.
What do you mean?
15% of 300,000 seems how much? You see, it is not even 100,000 shillings.
45,000 shillings every month.
45,000.
Half a loaf.
Half a loaf may be better than nothing, but I don't want to take it like that. Okay. We don't deserve. Teachers do not deserve half a loaf. They deserve a loaf.
Let's talk. Where would you put the money in agriculture, Imam?
To encourage the people to invest and till this land.
Services or what?
Till this land. Encourage people to go for irrigation, for example. If I don't know whether you have used the Hoima Road. After I think at a place called Nakwero, there is a young man who has
his farm, I think.
After I don't know. He has been irrigating. He has been irrigating
on a wetland.
On a small wetland, and the production during this season when there were no tomatoes, he was
selling
supplier.
Right.
And so, if you can encourage as many people as possible to go into this, people who have gone to, for example, areas
that requires education.
Like or where people are growing pineapples, if you can put it there, then you develop. You don't stop there. We develop agro-based industries, whereby we begin to add value into these products. You know, a season has just ended for fruits. How many? Several tons have been wasted in Nakasero here. Even though that
is that empirical?
It is.
It's true.
Several tons
of fruits
have
gone to waste.
But whichever supermarket you go to, you will find that they are selling this.
Yes, imported from South Africa.
This they import flour and then mix it, and then they send it is fresh juice. Whereas we have the best fruits available. So it is important that we focus on this agriculture. And I would have probably this budget should have picked from recently we hosted here a GCC conference. GCC's Gulf of Cooperation Council, and all of them were looking towards agriculture development, agro-based development, value added on our crops.
Yes.
But if you look at this investment, this money that has been put agriculture.
If I can contribute a small point to Imam, just to use 1 minute before my brother comes in.
Yes, Doctor.
Is that now Uganda, of course, it is now a known fact that there is going to be a global food insecurity crisis.
Well, but food production wasn't bad last year. It went up a little bit last year.
Globally, and you know, recent election, Obama hosted, I think the G20, is focused on food security. But Uganda has a comparative advantage in production of food in the region and perhaps in the world. So I think we needed to see a budget that actually takes that opportunity, seizes it, and directs investment. And what he's talking about, we need to attract the middle class into agriculture, to go there as a business, not as a leisure, because most people here grow. I myself have bananas, but it's like it's a leisure. My major activity is to sell my intellectual labor here, and it's a lip service to agriculture.
Okay, you find.
Let's start into Nyago. Why did you people give us such a budget?
Holiday.
It's a holiday.
Well, I don't think, there's no perfect budget to start with, because had there been one, then there would have been no need for a budget. A budget means that resources are scarce, and then you must budget them, and you can't make everybody happy by any budget, whether it's a household budget or whatever budget. Because resources in economics are scarce, so budgets by definition can't make everybody happy. But I think within those constraints, this budget was a good budget. Look, we're in a global crisis. Countries are going in for all kinds of borrowing, like say Spain and others. But Uganda is going to fund its budget by 75%. That is a major achievement.
Yes.
That when we are 50 years independence, we are truly, because you can't be independent without being economically viable, economically independent. So we are much more independent now. That is a very big indicator. That shows that Ugandans are productive and they can manage to fund their budget. Because donor dependency has all kinds of problems. Because you might base yourself on a donor budget, and they might change their mind because of the Euro crisis or whatever reason. Elections might occur in that country, and the new leader might not like you. So now we are much more independent, and that means that things are going to move more steadily. I think it is also a very budget-friendly, business-friendly budget, and the president, I think, mentioned that he's going to establish, the president did mention he's going to establish a presidential economic council, which is going to meet once
every 2 months.
Every 2 months, to get business people with good ideas like Imam, Kasozi, and all these gentlemen here, to come and share those valuable ideas with the country, so that the country benefits from a business-friendly atmosphere. Because part of the problem we have in this country is the frustration the frustration towards businessmen by the bureaucracy for whatever reason, out of interest or lack of information and so forth. So at the highest level, having this council where the president chairs it, that is going to move things forward, and that's going to benefit us. Now, you find that also there's the issue. There's also the issue of as to whether this budget has been people friendly, or as to whether the budget has focused on agriculture, where most of our people are located. I think it has. It has been people friendly, and has focused greatly on agriculture. Because to begin with, yes, taxing the rich more, well, it has its hazards, but there's no other way.
What hazards are there? They already have the
hazards like what my brother has mentioned. He has mentioned that people become there'll be a disincentive to make money. That's not true at all, empirically, because look, a country like Sweden, people are taxed, I think, 50%. And then, but I mean, they have not stopped. And the reasoning is this, because Sweden is actually, of many of these Nordic countries, there had been a welfare state arrangement. Yes. And the reason was that the rich, there was a contract between the rich and the state that you tax us and we support or subsidize the poor for stability.
Yes.
So that, because these poor,
they're not countries.
Oh yeah, they're the ones who work in their factories. So in order
in the United States has to be taxed more. Yes.
So the point I'm trying to make is that more increased taxation. 10% is very high. Increased taxation, even the church, I think, talks about giving tithe of 10%. So yes. I think that's a very fair. Whatever, but the point is that this taxing of the rich.
Zakah is 2.5.
Okay, in the Quran. Okay, fine. But this tax is good because we need to tax these people so that they will definitely work more and we have more stability. Now, also, you find that the budget, when you're talking about the budget in agriculture, it's not just about that 150 billion, because much of the funding has gone into roads. My brother here and the doctor talk about post-harvest waste. Much of that is because of lack of infrastructure. A man in, say, Kabarori or Kaburasoke, he grows his tomatoes, the ones my brother's been talking about, Imam Kasozi, because there are no roads there. That's why, these peasants are rational. Many people think peasants are irrational. They are rational. Because the peasant can't work hard, can't produce more than he can look after. Because if he produces beyond what he can sell, they would waste on his garden. Because he lacks the transport. And the man who comes to transport those vegetables would come and in Uganda, they use ukujedeka. Because that transporter knows that these things are perishable.
The roads are bad.
These things are perishable. And then this man can't hire a vehicle. So because of that, that's the point I'm trying to make. So because of that, that's why the peasant lives in his own cocoon. Because the rational person.
And the road will break that cocoon.
So because now the government, let me first finish up.
No, wait.
Let's leave
let us not promote a peasantry.
Let's have
because the government now wants to change all this, because the peasant must not remain a peasant. That's the government's. That is why the government is putting
the intervention.
Why is the government?
Intervention is to the trillions of shillings. You said roads are taking up the biggest whatever. These roads are not going to my home. They are going to Kaburasoke. They are going to Bundibujo. They are going deep down there. That is where the production is. So when the roads are good all weather, that would mean that the cost of producing, the cost of transport of this produce, where the peasants are, would improve and they would move out from the subsistence sector. But much more, the government also talks about, the budget also talks about the eradication of this whatever primitive concept of load shedding. Power now for
2 years. If I hadn't said never,
Chairman, go on, sir. Go on, moderator. So now please, go on, sir. Now, because of the electricity now is going to become stable and abundant, that would ensure, and there's also an intervention to ensure that there will be agro processing. The government is going to give incentives for that, to ensure that our cereals are not sold as grain, but they are sold as flour. The The wheat from Sebei is sold as wheat flour to Kenya. It's exported like wheat flour, and there are all kinds of benefits that emerge from that, like say food, feed, animal feed, and so forth. Value addition, and also employment. Then also, from there.
Join Airtel today and get 50% bonus airtime instantly. That's right, 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks. Simply buy and register a new Airtel SIM card. Top up 1,000 shillings and more, and 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks is yours. Join Airtel today. Get bonus today.
Airtel. When Junior lost his appetite, his mother tried all methods to get him to eat. She tried scary stories.
Eat, Tommy, eat, or the big black elephant will come and eat all your food.
She tried magic.
Tommy, if you eat your food, I will turn this handkerchief into sweets. Look, bumble, bumble, boom, boom.
Then she discovered Apetol multivitamin syrup with lysine.
Mommy, I finished all the food. I am number 1.
Apetol multivitamin with lysine is helping mothers to turn mealtime frustration to a fun moment. Apetol has a great taste and contains lysine, which quickly improves your child's appetite and supports healthy growth. Apetol, help for life.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight to review the week, looking at the big reports of the week. The budget yesterday, did it work? Is it going to work well? Will it start this economy back into production? Growth was 3.2%, the lowest in 20 years, since 1991-92, when it was only 1.8%. It rebounded to 7% the following year, and this year the minister says we'll have 7% growth next year. Is it workable? We're talking about that. We're also talking about the election in Bushenyi, the Shaka by-election. Not Nasa Basajevala. One Basajevala lost it to another man. Nasa Basajevala lost it to the Odo Tayewa of the Forum for Democratic Change. The FDC says they want to take over Ankole, where the president comes from. Is that feasible? We'll talk about that. Our guest tonight, Mr. Kintu, Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President, Dr. Bainomugisha, Head of the Peace and Security Program at ACODE, Mr. Wamboga Mugirya, Director Communication and Partnerships at the Science Foundation for Livelihood and Development, and Imam Kasozi, Lecturer at the IUIU, also Muslim Cleric. Mr. Kintu, Nyago.
Yes, please.
Yeah, public expenditure, a lot of corruption, nothing was said about corruption. What are we going to do?
No, I mean, but on the issue of it's being pro-people, you find that, the nucleus farmer, as the concept of nucleus farmer, whereby the tractor hire service is going to emerge again. Because, the hand hoe, which our peasant has been using, it has its merits, but I mean, it's very limited in it.
They removed taxes on hand hoes last year.
No, that's not the way to go. The way to go is tractor hire servicing, and the nucleus farmer is going to be there to provide this service, and that is going to produce boost production. Now also the issue of agro-processing, as I've mentioned, and that can't occur without electricity, and there's a lot of funding going into electricity, and that again ties into agriculture. So when you look at the agriculture budget, don't just look at agriculture, but look at the money, the billions, the trillions going into the dams, like a dam like Agago, the dams like Karuma, and so forth. That's the money, the trillions going into the road. That's all agriculture. So much of this money is into agriculture or
indirectly,
or feeds into agriculture, directly or indirectly. Now also,
but Edmond,
there is the issue of, let me finish. Then there is the issue also of giving incentives to manufacturers who are going to go up country. That is also part of this budget. Remember that Uganda is in the middle of Africa, and many of our hinterland areas that are really inaccessible to the have difficulty of accessing the world, and they access the world through Uganda. Look at Eastern Congo, yes, or Rwanda itself, Southern Sudan. So we need manufacturers to offer goods and services to, rather goods to those countries.
Yes.
Now, one more point, one or two more points. You find that there's another very progressive development in this budget. That is the issue of borrowing from internally from the national.
There's no money at the NSSF.
No,
take it, read my lips. You won't get a penny.
There is a lot of it. There is about $1 billion or something.
There's
or
nothing.
$2 billion.
You've already borrowed it 1 trillion through 2 billion. You don't have it there.
Please. Let us. Yeah, but the point, Mr.
We'll sit here and
we could have betted, but that's not the best way of going about it. No, I'm saying betting. Now, what I'm saying is there's money there's money in NSSF, and it's going to be borrowed internally in a manner that's going to even benefit those who are in that fund and so forth. Okay. Now, you find that you have mentioned, why has the growth rate been 3.2%? Yes. Well, that is not
well, in the election year inflation went up from 6.2 to 11%.
The record has been higher. I mean, we have been having, say, 7% and so forth. But for me, I see a silver lining here, because the debate on Spectrum and elsewhere just a few weeks ago was on this so-called mimicking of the Arab Spring in the streets of Kampala.
Yes.
You see, this so-called, is it road to what?
No, Tiaga sorted that
road
out.
What is it? Road to what? Road to whatever it is.
Walk through.
But I mean, that anarchist, the bishop of Rwanda called it nihilist, I think. Nihilist.
That's destruction.
Yes, that kind of philosophy. That those people who are supposed to be leaders have been engaged in trying to mimic things that can't occur here. That has had an impact on the economy. But there's no other country that has had such upheaval, that has had a growth rate, whether it's Syria, Egypt, Tunisia, to mention but a few. By the virtue of the fact that even with that shock, we have grown. That's a plus.
Mr. Wamboga Mugirya, please go. And,
one thing that
let's get the record straight. NSSF does not have money to give. You won't get it because it's already you've already borrowed it in treasury bonds. They have 14 billion shillings in cash and balances from their own records.
Yeah, but also they have invested, they've
already lent it to
abroad. They've invested abroad the money. So I don't know how they're going to get it from them. But I just wanted to look at agriculture. I think the most important thing is that we need a redefining of the role of the state in development of the country. And should not look at short-term things like growth rate. We should look at economic development. Not economic growth only.
Quantum leaps.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at agriculture sector, mechanization is good. The tractor is good. But how do you leap from a hoe to a tractor? You need the intermediate technologies. The ox plow. The ox plow was a good measure to move from a hoe to a mechanized, formal mechanized system where lands like Teso. I mean, production in Teso has gone down. The president complained that when he flies over the area, it's now forest and bushes. The cattle, the reintroduction of cattle was very poor and failed, because that was the basis of development of Teso, cotton, groundnuts, and the cassava, economy of that region. You know how many people were educated because of cotton, cattle, and groundnuts. The northern Uganda, the plains of Acholi, the ranches in Acholi where you would get oxen and then reintroduce them in the other parts of the country where that oxen works. So we must introduce intermediate technologies before we think a tractor will work. People must understand. I went to Ethiopia and I saw, and I was with some other East African, and he laughed at these people using mules. But in Ethiopia. But in other countries they use human beings. When you use mules and donkeys, you have moved from human beings carrying heavy luggage.
A man in Spain said Spain is not like Uganda. He said that's the best example of a banana republic.
But Spain,
but how is Spain today?
Spain has the economy the size of Africa, the population of
China is offering to give Spain money. Spain, because in its pride, is saying no, but it has no money.
It can't balance its budget.
And it's
for the banks anyway.
Countries like Germany to support them. But what I'm saying is that before we move to the hoe, to the tractor, we must introduce intermediate technologies like oxen plow. It should be reintroduced in northern Uganda where the drudgery is serious, yet the land is expansive and flat, but there is no, the hoe won't change lives, so we must have oxen reintroduced. Now, when you look at agricultural sector as well, you know, we must live to what we signed really. The Maputo Declaration of 1993, where governments committed themselves to put 10% of GDP in agriculture. We don't see this today. How long is it going to take? So, and also when we say health for all, this declaration, actually Uganda shouldn't have joined the Millennium Development Goal race. How are we going to meet all those MDGs down 2015? We must have our own national development plan and should be implemented. I didn't hear it being mentioned in the budget, even the State of the Nation address. Yet we have a national development plan, which totally changes the other planning of 3 years to 5 years. How are we keeping in line with the goals in the NDP? Those are very fundamental questions. In one time cabinet reshuffle, the government announced the reintroduction of Uganda Development Corporation. Where is it today in the budget of 2012-2013? It's not mentioned. Those are the driving forces. The institutionalization of development must be reorganized and re-established.
Institutionalization of development.
Absolutely. The National Planning Authority should be detached from the Ministry of Finance.
Why should they take it? Separate ministry or what?
No, it should be a separate entity which is really independent.
President's office
no, it should be the National Planning Authority on its own.
Overseen by who?
No, it can be overseen politically by Parliament and can really account to Parliament. But it should be allowed to exercise its role as enshrined in the act that established it. But if you make it an appendage of the Ministry of Finance, then the Ministry of Finance assumes the role of NPA.
They plan according to the risk of the basket.
Absolutely, but that's not bad. The most important thing is that we should have an institution that tells the technocrats and the politicians that this is the way to go. We don't go this way, we lose the track.
So they should be wagging the dog. They should be, setting the agenda.
Yes, but lastly, in the energy sector, it's good to put the money where where the mouth is. It was good to allocate this, but not enough. I want to use energy.
What do you mean it's not enough? We have the Karuma Dam starting. We have power for the next 2 years for now.
But if you Karuma is 4 years. The rate of industrialization, the consumption of this electricity, is it really in tandem? If you look at the rate of industrialization vis-a-vis the units of energy that are going to be provided and the maintenance of these systems, are you seeing in place maintenance of these systems in order to have sustained electricity supply? But Edmond, I was saying, I want to see the Ministry of Agriculture provide tangible, goods to the nation. Can we see the Ministry of Agriculture, the allocation of money there, we see pipelines of water from the water source to the villages for irrigation. Really tangible on the ground, like we see energy taking rural electrification to the people. The only undoing in electrification is the tariff. But if the tariff was friendly, we would see people utilizing this power.
We should have pipes of water, taking water for irrigation. I really hope they are listening.
They must do it. Otherwise, where are they getting the money?
That's epic. And I don't know what you're still doing in the private sector.
Now, lastly, Edmond, I just wanted to say the killing of PMA, the Plan for Modernization of Agriculture, which was well conceived and well designed, and now it's not mentioned anywhere. It's not being followed. It doesn't function.
Our time.
It was well designed and to deliver.
A man like you should be in the planning authority because you have extremely important ideas. Dr. Bainomugisha, you come from the think tank. Well, I don't. I'm not even a politician. You come from a think tank. In February last year, we had inflation of 6.4. In March, which is where we have also had an election in that time, and with the winner, became president. The next month, inflation went to 11.2%. Could the election have influenced the inflation?
Yeah, I want to behave like my brother. First, make my point, then I'll answer that one.
Go on, sir.
But I just want to appreciate some of the good aspects of this budget, like the youth fund. Really, if it can be operationalized, it's a good measure and responding to widespread youth unemployment. And from a peace and security perspective, if a country has a large number of youth who are uneducated and unemployed and angry and disaffected, and of course with our war history of conflicts, you risk insecurity. So I think the institutionalization of the youth fund is a good measure, but I think it is still more rhetoric. We want to see seriousness.
What do you mean rhetoric?
Rhetoric, because the promise and the practice.
They put money on the table. 18 billion has been given out of 25.
Yeah, but there was also money in the last financial year, and there has been put money now in this financial. We want to see youth projects. We want to see the youth. Let's get it clearly.
They voted 25 billion shillings. Because of bureaucracy, it was delayed until 3 months ago. But in 3 months, they've given out 18 billion shillings out of 25. That's a high performance level.
And that's the challenge. So what I'm talking about, I'm saying I'm appreciating that principle. I'm appreciating the initiative, but I'm saying that the fund needs to be used appropriately to achieve that objective. The second point I want to comment on is, of course, the graduates fund.
Yes.
I think it's also a good measure for innovation and also to attract people who want to work, because I think we have a poor work ethic in this country, and I think this could trigger young people who want to try out even in the private sector, because also most people have been looking for jobs in the government. The government cannot employ everyone. So I think that's also a good thing, but also it must be well managed. It must not be politicized, and I think if it is well run, then it can achieve something. Now the other point is about reconstruction of the war-torn areas. I think the budget did not specifically point to that, because you see, a third of the country has been in war, in war situation for almost 20 years. Northern Uganda and Eastern Uganda. So I think also the budget should make that acceptance and budget. But they have this towards reconstructing those there is PRDP too, but you know PRDP too is, of course, it's poorly funded. You know that it has had problems. No, wait. Actually, the funding it has not been realized. Okay. So, but the point I'm making, would want to see the national budget seriously focused on reconstruction of the war-torn areas and make them productive again. Right, okay. So that is a serious point. So the final point is about regional integration. You see, regional integration is one of the best things that can happen. Of course, creating and expanding the market opportunities, the business opportunities, unleashing the potential of the region, creating those opportunities. So the national budgets across actually the region should have seriously focused on that. By the way, that presents the most solutions to some of the problems that we have in the region. But the budget is a policy instrument that should actually guide regional integration. Right, okay. I didn't see a deliberate fund, a deliberate action, for instance, to invest in regional infrastructure, especially the roads.
The inflation 6.4 in February, 11.2. Could there have been a link, or was it a sheer coincidence?
Of course, elections is always an expensive undertaking. But you see, elections is also a very important undertaking for a country that has chosen the path of democracy. So making significant investment in elections was
then it has happened that way.
No, I think we had a very expensive election. Uganda is not the only country that has had a very expensive election, but I think there was too much monetization of the elections, and certainly had a serious negative bearing on the economic growth that we witnessed.
We have to move forward. Let's talk about
just briefly on that one. Elections coincided with food inflation being 50%.
Yes.
So I mean, and then Uganda being
so it was a bad luck for us. We need to pray harder.
Not really, because that's why we're building the roads. That's why we're building, because if you're talking about irrigation, you need power. That's why we're building the dams, to ensure that even if there is a drought in future, as the example was giving on Nakwero, we don't suffer, because drought is a natural phenomenon. Okay. But I mean, we can fight it through interventions like irrigation.
Like Peter's idea.
That requires power, that requires...
That's a revolutionary thing, man. You are a thinker. Imam Kasozi, before we move forward, very briefly, will this budget deliver 7%? The World Bank says 6%, the IMF says 6%, the Bank of Uganda says 6%, the minister says 7%. Will it jump?
Not likely, because, you know, we have so many opportunistic people.
Yes.
Looking at these monies and hoping that it is going to go their way. And we have also very few
in the wings.
Much as even the way the president defined what is patriotism to this country left a lot to be desired. I think we need to think beyond that.
We need to move forward, because
if we want to see any change, any shift, it must be me and you, the citizen, the civil society, the people, to agitate for this change.
Okay, we have to move forward. You spoke about people waiting to steal the money, and I say it looks like some people think it's the mind of a hyena. You know, some people say when a hyena sees a man walking, they think the hands are going to fall off, so they eat the meat, and that's the kind. So they think some men are waiting to steal the money. Let's talk about something that happened in Ushenyi. The FDC emerged victorious in the Wednesday election, beating the NRM in what is believed to be the NRM backyard. How did it happen?
No, you know, you see, probably many Ugandans have never followed the politics of Western Uganda, particularly Ankole, and more specifically Bushenyi. Bushenyi keeps changing depending on the circumstances. Fortunately, I was educated there. I want to congratulate my OB.
Exactly.
Go on.
Tunga School.
Go on.
Yes, Odo is my OB. We were at Tunga at the same time. He was, I think, a year ahead of me. Yes. So I want to congratulate him for that. Actually, one of the biggest challenges in the politics of this country is whom have we left the politics to. Okay? Some of the people who have just come out of school yesterday, they are the ones who come and formulate this. But that's why sometimes you have all this confusion, because they have no experience. They are only looking. They are only survivors, and as a consequence, we can't move ahead. So I want people to critically think further than this, and as they talk about amendments in the civil society, I want to push for something that is really very radical, whereby the age to parliament should be raised, so that people must have worked in order to come to parliament.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But even in parliament, that's work.
No, politicking.
Oh, really? And that's not work?
Politicking. It is not work. Work must be creative. Work must be...
Even in parliament, they are creative, some of them. Well, let's move forward.
They should have some form of, you see, orientation that leads...
Mr. Nyago, how did this man raise past you people?
No.
In the yellow jerseys.
The point is that Imam has a good point. I mean, the reform may be a bit drastic, but the point is Uganda has the youngest parliament.
Let's talk about Odo Tayeva. How did he raise past you people?
And a number
how did the Trotters beat the hair?
Uganda's the youngest parliament, and a number of these parliamentarians, a number of these parliamentarians, in my view, this was a victory for democracy in this country, and in my understanding,
thank you very much,
we cannot have had this democracy without the good leadership of President Museveni and NRM.
Right.
Yes,
Dr. Bainomugisha.
Yes, I think having been...
I mean, the NRM keeps losing this by-election. Why do you have bad luck with this by-election?
No, let me just answer the first question and then quickly sum up that.
Go on, sir.
Now, the first point, of course, I come from Barara, but I'm educated in Ushenyi like Imam Kasozi and Gano High School, to be precise. Now, I think one of the challenges, of course, that the NRM got in Ushenyi was because of the family, of the conduct of Hassan Basajawaraba, the senior.
Why?
Yeah, I think
what's wrong with the man?
Yeah, I think that was a protest vote towards him. It may not actually have been a protest vote towards the president.
Why do you mean? What's wrong with him?
You know, of course, he abused the leaders and has been dominating the politics. I remember at one time in one wedding I attended where he made a roll call and all these guys stood up. The leaders, you know, he funded most of the leadership now there, and then went ahead to dominate them. In that that wedding actually made a roll call, and he said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega for Bushenyi."
So
and I think for some of those people, and they're educated, I think they felt bad. But at the same time, they had a serious conflict, and the president attempted to reconcile them.
A very proud county.
So I think they were teaching a lesson. It's a protest vote against Basaja, but which cost the NRM, the ruling party, a loss. But of course, on a bigger scale, I want to agree with my brother Kintu.
It's a victory for democracy.
It's a victory for democracy because, again, Bushenyi, Imam, Kasozi, don't say that they change the situation. I think there is maturity, there is political maturity that is always exhibited among those people. And actually, they work together, irrespective of the divisions in this country. And I think that is very fundamental for the
is where Adonia Chibamba came from.
Yes,
Mr. Peter Wamboga Mugirya. Talk to us about this man. How did he race past the yellow jerseys?
But Edmond, any coincidence with the fall in the growth rate, with the losses in various by-elections for the sitting government?
But why do they have
similarities, any connections at all?
Give us the reading.
I mean, the performance of the economy is not good.
Do the people understand that?
And certainly the government in power is in charge of the economy. So when people see these kind of things, the lending rates going up and the inflation going up, they certainly blame the government. So sometimes it is shown through the vote. It's a protest vote. And I can tell you in Masaka, Bokoman Simbo, somewhere those by-elections, it's going to be opposition.
That's why
Dr. Bainomugisha, we had NRM people supporting FDC. Why do they do things?
I think one, it's the conflicts in the local politics that made the people change their way. But I wanted to agree with my brother here, Wamboga, that actually in most countries, even Sarkozy lost elections because of the bad economy, and it doesn't reflect also on the. Sometimes it's really a punishment, an innocent punishment for the ruling.
Even in the UK, to certain extent,
of course, they lost.
Mr. Nyago, why do your cadres support the opposition in Masaka? We've had reports that.
Who will speak on their behalf?
Imam Kasozi, maybe you can talk to us.
So, you see, the problem is, are the voters politicians? They are not.
Yes.
People are voting depending on what they want to see at that material time. And that is actually a good trend. Internationally, a small percentage of people are the diehards of any political group. The rest just vote because of the policies that they envisage. And therefore, people, when they see that they are being squeezed, then they say, probably. You see, people are always optimistic with a lot of skepticism.
No, don't confuse us. Optimistic person, that's black and white together. When
you are in power, they become skeptical about you, and then they say that the new face probably would be more hopeful.
That's correct.
That's what I was trying to do.
That's correct.
Yes.
So sometimes it can be changed for the sake of
change for its own sake.
Yes, but also they give you the benefit of the doubt. The public gives you the benefit of the doubt, and along the way you must prove that you are better than the other. I mean, even the opposition will face this. One
if
time
they were in power.
No, but it may not be so much if. It may be a when. It is
the opposition will sometimes take power.
It could be a matter of time they may come to power and they will be challenged by the same thing. So they must do differently. So the challenge in political maturity of the population is quite big.
Those of us in the civil society who are pushing for change, we are actually seeing hope that at least people are beginning to realize the need to make a shift.
Our time is up. Thank you very much to our dear guests, Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President. Thank you very much indeed for holding forth. He's a strong man. Sometimes things are not very easy, but he holds his ground. Thank you very much for coming to Spectrum tonight. Dr. Arthur Bainomugisha, Head of the Peace and Security Program at ACODE, thank you very much for your perspectives. Mr. Peter Wamboga Mugirya, Director of Communication and Partnerships at the Science Foundation for Livelihood and Development. I keep saying maybe you should be in government advising people somewhere.
But we advise through civil side. I hope the ear is on the ground to listen to us.
Thank you. Imam Kasozi, thank you very much for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will be back on Monday. Have a very good weekend.
Thank you, Edmond.
Thanks a lot, Edmond.
Thanks.
Good to see you.